Okay, so I should have done this before I glued my X bracing in. I need to really know where the outline of my template is on the inside of this. So what I've done, I've just got a piece of lead here from my big pencil, and I'm tracing where this template, where the edge of the guitar will be on here. So after I've got this glued in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve this X bracing before I glue these other bracing pieces in. Randy, the guy that taught me to build, he glued everything in first, but he came back and told me he thought it would be actually easier to carve the X bracing first before we glue all the other bracing in. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so carving bracing is such a mysterious thing, it seems, when you look at builders online. For me, to take the mystery out of it, I basically downloaded Martin's schematics for the dimensions of their bracing, and I'm going to just carve my bracing to Martin's dimensions for the most part. Okay, at least I'm going to start there. And so their schematics are really measured in millimeters, so this is where I'll kind of switch to millimeters. And so I got to go 49.7 millimeters back. And so what I'll do, I'll make a mark there. And so this is what I'm going to angle my brace down to that point right there. And I'm going to mark that on all of them. Okay, and the amount of that I'm going to go down to is 10 millimeters, which I've already measured out on my calipers here. So I'm going to mark that. So that's how far we're going to scoop it down to. Get that. And I'm going to mark all of them. Okay, and then also from this point on, we got to scallop these down. And so we're going to scallop them down to a 1/4 inch. That 1/4 inch includes the width of the top. So I'm going to take that measurement and mark it. Okay, so the way I'm going to do that is that's my 1/4 inch. I'm going to put that right there. And I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to score a mark there. And then I can put that in. And I'm going to do that on all of them, and then we'll go scallop these before I start carving. Actually, I'm going to start scalloping these in just a minute, but when you do that, you don't want to scallop, you don't want to start taking them down any closer than 1 inch from the center of your X brace. So I'm going to mark 1 inch all around so I don't get into that. Okay, so I'm going to use a block plane to start taking this down, and so the way to do it is do a short, then a medium, and then right back to your line and do a long, and just keep doing that. Short, medium, long, and we'll keep doing that until I get down to that 10 millimeter mark right there. Okay, so here they're all slanted down. Now later we're going to scallop these 2 bottom braces, okay? But we're going to do that as we kind of fine-tune things. For now though, we will scallop the ends, and we'll take it over to the sander and do that. Okay, so this is what I used to scallop the bracing. I made a little jig here. I've got a video on how I made this. And next, we're going to teepee our X bracing, and then we'll do this with all the bracing. But before I do that, I'm going to lay tape on either side, so that when I'm running a plane or whatever along it, or even a chisel, I don't gouge or mar my surface. Okay, so what you do is use your finger, just a rough center line here, just as a guide. And then you're going to start, you can use a chisel, you can use a small little hand plane. The tape, especially with the chisel, I'll put a little metal ruler down here just in case I miss. I don't want to gouge my top. And so then you can start removing material. Now, depending on the direction of the grain, sometimes it will come off easier one way than the other. And so if you're struggling and it's splintering, switch the direction that you would come at it. And a lot of times that'll make a big difference on how the material comes off. So I'm going to basically smooth this. I'm going to use this little hand plane, and I'm going to create, and I'm going to do the other side, I'm going to create a teepee with the bracing. Come back with some 80 grit sandpaper. So one thing I'm going to do before I call it quits for the evening, I still have to TP these. I'm going to glue on the little X-brace bridge patch here, okay? And all I'm going to do is put a little bit of glue on this, and I'm just going to use tape to So now I'm getting ready to cut the, to scallop the insides of the tone bars and the finger braces, but I need to cut an angle or to grind, use my disc sander to grind an angle on these. And so if you want to be super accurate about it, you can take a ruler and get a good measurement of where that is, and then just, I moved it. You can kind of eyeball it too to get the angle you need. And mark your angles there, and do that for the rest of these also. Also, I had finished sanding or shaping all of the bracing here. I shaped the little bridge plate there also. Also, it's a good idea to label your pieces so you know what's what. And so you can see I labeled all these. So I'm going to take these over to the disc sander, is the easiest way to cut these angles. Next we have to scallop the bracing, the inside parts where it meets the X bracing, and we're going to come in 1.5 inches on each one with the scalloping. So I'll do this, make a little mark, okay, and I'm going to do that on all of these, just enough of a mark that I can see it. And I'm going to go ahead and do all these. Okay, so we marked our 1.5 inches in, and then we want the thickness of the tip to be a 1/4 inch thick. And so I will make a mark here. And I know that's where to stop on my scalloping. And I'm going to do that to all of these. Then I'm going to take it over to the sander with my little jig and scallop all these. Okay, so I'm going to run this sander. You want to start taking off just a little and slowly tighten it up until you get where you want to get to. As a little side note, and I thought about this the last time I did this, it's better to glue your furthest pieces first, because now I have to navigate around all this. And so just a little tip, do your furthest pieces first and then work your way out. Okay, so I've got it to this point. We're going to do a lot of trimming of the bracing, but one thing we can kind of do, hold it by this brace here and just listen. You can kind of tap it and listen to how it sounds in the current state. Now, I'm not an expert at tap tuning. You know, it seems kind of a mystery to me. The guy that taught me to do this, he's built like over 100 guitars, so he can tap it and listen to it and tell certain things about it. This is my third guitar, and so I don't have the audio library in my head to really do that. But one thing I do know is that as you take material off the bracing, it does get more resonant, and so it sounds a little dead right now, but we'll start removing material. And the one thing that Randy Spencer did tell me was that, you can start taking material off of it. It'll get better and better and better. He said, but you don't want to take too much material off, because when you go over that point, you'll start to lose resonance. So there's a certain point. What I'm going to basically do, I'm going to carve these and copy pretty much what I did on the last guitar. And so that seemed to work very well. And so I'm going to pretty much use those dimensions and measurements when I carve this bracing on this guitar also. So I should have done this step before I trimmed this X brace down. But what I'll do, I'll just get a piece of the same dimension, and we're going to start angling these finger braces down. And so what I'm going to do here, we'll do it to this one in the front so you can see. So we'll put an angle on these. And I'm going to do that to all the finger bracing. I'll redo this one because you want the end to be well within the body, because these are not going to stick out. There we go. Next thing we're going to do is scallop these tone bars. 1.5 in, and you want to go in the furthest that you can. Okay, and we want it to be 0.25 or a quarter inch at the end. That includes the width of the top. So I will scribe a mark on these. Then I'll come back and I can mark that. Okay, and we'll take it over to the sander and scallop these down. Okay, next you want to take these finger braces down, following that angle. I've already done this one, so okay, so we've taken off a little more material. Let's see if there's any difference. Maybe a little. Next next thing we're gonna do is scoop down or scallop down these tone bars. I've already measured this one, so we'll kind of measure the halfway point, which is right at 12 inches. That's our halfway point right there. And then we're gonna scallop it down 0.375. That's probably backwards on there. But what I'll do, I'll make a mark 0.375 just to say, hey, I don't want to go any lower than that. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the bottom half of these X braces. You can see I already marked one. I'm gonna scallop those down to there, and I'm gonna mark the other one, and I'll get to work on that. Okay, so next we have to cut these ends back here. These have to be well within the body. Okay, then we have to take the bottom of the X braces down. You can see I already did this one. After we do all this, we'll TP all of the bracing. Alright, so let's see if we have any sort of difference here. Definitely seems to resonate a little longer, but again, I'm not an expert at this. Forgive my sweaty appearance. It's like 105 degrees in Texas today, which is ridiculous. So this is what I've got so far. Again, we're gonna come back then and TP all of this bracing just like we did with the X bracing. Okay, so the next step in this is creating a TP on all of this bracing. And so what I'm gonna do is draw a rough midpoint with a pencil. And then I'm going to TP these pieces. And so I'm going to work on that. Okay, so I've trimmed quite a bit off of the bracing by TPing it. And so what I mean by TPing it, you can see how thin it is now, right? And so you just kind of make a TP of it, take off quite a bit of material. And as I was doing that, I was also trying to tap and listen to the sounds and kind of going by that. And so I'm pretty much, I feel like I'm pretty much done. I may go over it with some 120 sandpaper just to smooth it out a little bit. Also, as a side note, I have not glued the transverse brace on. There's a reason for that. The transverse brace will be glued on at a later time. Okay, so let's listen to it. Definitely sounds a lot more musical, and I can feel the top vibrating, which is interesting. So the next thing to do is the bracing on the back. We're going to take these down to 5/8 of an inch, And so you can kind of see I marked here where to do that. And I'm just going to take a block plane and lower it down a little bit, okay? Okay, now that I've got that down to 5/8 of an inch, I'm gonna TP these just like I did the top. I'm gonna draw the center line here. Okay, so we took it from here to here. Quite a bit of a difference, actually.